When Jo La Spina stayed at a friend's house after a night out, she thought she'd be safe. But how could she know that also staying there was a rapist with murder on his mind? Tonight, for the first time, the police video interview with the murderer who tells lie after lie in an attempt to get himself off the hook. Dan Nolan has the story.
I don't know anything about what happened to Jo. I'll be honest. I'm as gobsmacked as you guys are, you know.
Unfortunately, there's no doubt that her last moments were terrifying.
I'm still surprised about what happened to her. I don't know, to be honest with you.
No one could have predicted what he was capable of. No one could have predicted what he was going to do.
I just want to say that this day hasn't changed anything. Jo's still not here.
They never get to see everything that she could have done.
Jo La Spina was loved by everyone, the kind of girl who didn't have an enemy in the world. But what happened to her here in this quiet suburb was savage and brutal, a crime that came with no warning at all.
Strangled to death.
It happened on Easter Saturday, a young life taken for no reason at all.
Nothing will ever give back what's been taken from her.
Wendy Palmer was a close friend of Jo's, one of hundreds of people touched by that infectious smile.
You could have met Jo once and, you know, she would leave a mark on you for sure. Bubbly, full of life.
She still remembers the disbelief at first hearing Jo had been murdered.
The body of 26-year-old Jo La Spina was found in the bathroom of the townhouse.
I honestly didn't believe it. I thought there was absolutely no way and why anyone would want to hurt Jo in the first place. There'd never be a reason to cause her any harm.
That was until this monster arrived. On the surface, 33-year-old Musa Nwira seemed like a friendly traveller from South Africa making a new life for himself in Australia. Nobody had even an inkling that he was also a cold-blooded killer. For the first time, we can play you his interview with detectives recorded the day after Jo La Spina's murder.
Have you played any part in the death of Jo?
No, ma'am, I have not. I have not basically played any part at all. I don't know anything about this. It saddens me that something like that would happen to her. I don't know anything about what happened to Jo. I'll be honest.
But Musa Nwira is far from being honest. He spits out dozens of different lies that will eventually be picked apart by investigating police using CCTV and witness accounts.
Did you inflict any injuries at all on Jo?
No, not at all.
Was there any struggle at any stage between you and Jo?
No. I didn't even speak much to her. I never basically had any issues with her.
This is a particularly nasty example of it for sure, but it never ceases to amaze me, the capability of humans to lie.
Detective Sergeant Brad McLeish was there the day Musa Nwira was arrested in the Sydney suburb of Cronulla. His team of investigators pieced together the fateful events that led to Jo's murder.
She was out with friends having a good time.
It was Good Friday. Jo was having a few drinks here at the Bingle Bay Cafe until about 8 p.m. They then kicked on to the Jackaroo Hostel until 2 a.m. before moving the party to a nearby beach. Musa Nwira was also in the group as they had mutual friends. Jo had told someone at the bar she found him creepy. When she decided to call it a night, Jo asked to crash at her good friend Warwick Daniels' house. But Musa Nwira also asked to stay over too.
I asked him while we were still at the bar, do you mind if I basically crash over at Jo's? I've had too much to drink. I don't want to basically drive. And he said, yeah, you're more than welcome, mate. You know, no dramas.
How safe would she have felt staying in that house?
She would have felt very safe. She was in a familiar environment. She'd stayed at that unit before. She was in a bedroom by herself. She was sleeping. She had no reason to feel in danger at all.
At 7 a.m, Warwick Daniel awakes and rushes to work. As he leaves, he speaks to Musa Nwira, who's sleeping on a couch downstairs. Joe is asleep upstairs and is now completely unaware that she's home all alone with a sexual predator who's about to strike. Just 20 minutes later, a next-door neighbour told police he heard a woman screaming.
It was a high-pitched screeching, loud sound. It sounded like it was coming from unit number 1 on the lower level. I could hear it through the wall.
I don't know. I have no idea at all.
Did you hear a female screeching?
I didn't hear anything. To be honest.
The screams became so loud, the neighbour called out through an open window.
I said, "What's going on in there? Are you all right?" I heard a female voice say once quickly, "No." It was real quick.
I said, I don't know. I don't know anything about that at all.
Then a male voice said words like, "It's okay, bro. It's right."
No, like I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know anything about this, you know.
In Musa Nwira's version of events, he claims to have left the unit around 8:39 a.m. without incident.
I got up, had a glass of water, and then I went back. I came back home.
When you got up and left to come home, who else was in the unit at that time?
I don't know. I didn't basically look. I didn't.
CCTV captures him parking in a nearby cafe, walking calmly inside for a few minutes, then leaving again. Evidence that didn't fit with his story. Then a crucial breakthrough here on Musa Nwira's work computer. A forensic analysis revealed that at 1:39 p.m. he ran searches asking what is the penalty for killing a person in Australia before deleting the internet history. Further testing also discovered Nwira's DNA on Joe's body, her clothing and a pillowcase in the room where she'd slept, unravelling more of his lies.
And obviously there's an upstairs, but I've never been upstairs.
Okay. So you've never been to the upstairs part of what was his unit?
No.
Would you like to make a comment in relation to the next door heard with the female screaming in the unit that you were in at the time?
No, because their word against mine at this moment, and it just seems like, you know, there's piling evidence that's basically suggesting that I was there, but I was not there. I don't know anything about what happened to Jo. I'm still surprised about what happened to her. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know.
When he faced trial for murder, Musa Nwira dropped most of these lies and changed his story. He told the jury he got into a physical argument with Jo after a sexual encounter gone wrong. He claims he accidentally choked her to death and then lied about it for fear nobody would believe the words of a black man in Australia. Musa Nwira told the court he had no intention of killing Jo and that he only used the chokehold in self-defence. This coming from a man who is 193 centimetres tall versus a woman who was about this high. What was your reaction to his claims of self-defence?
To try and blame a victim for your actions is just outrageous.
Musa's new version of events was still full of holes. Nwira was also trained in first aid, but despite his claim of accidentally killing Jo, he made no attempt to revive her. Instead, he placed her body in the shower and fashioned a noose around her neck to try and make it look like suicide.
If his version of events was to be believed, he could have phoned 000, he could have sought help from neighbours, he could have performed CPR by his own admissions, but he failed to do any of that.
A jury took just 2 hours to find Musa Nwira guilty of the murder and rape of Jo Lespina. Her uncle speaking on behalf of her distraught parents outside court.
The family are devastated. They're so thankful to the police and the prosecutors for the job they've done. We just want to say that this day hasn't changed anything. Joe's still not here. Thank you.
Thank you. He might have a sentence in jail, but her family have a sentence now for the rest of their life.
For Jo's friends like Wendy Palmer, the pain of her loss is still so raw. Do you miss most about Jo?
Her happiness. Sorry.
They've built this lasting memorial to her in the sleepy suburb of Bingle Bay, just outside Mission Beach in North Queensland, and still celebrate her birthday. A community used to opening its arms to tourists, now left scarred by the evil unleashed by a stranger. A crime that has left many friends and witnesses wishing they could have their time over and do something differently.
They shouldn't feel any blame for what happened, because no one could have predicted what he was capable of. No one could have predicted what he was going to do.
So everything you told us been the truth?
Everything has been the truth.
Musa Nwera was sentenced to life behind bars. He'll be eligible for parole in 20 years.